When the sky bleeds red and kingdoms crumble to ash, only the chosen remain standing. This is a story of wings forged in starlight, betrayal carved in shadow, and a warrior who refused to let hope die. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will shake your soul. Picture this. A kingdom once called Thornvale, jewel of the northern realms, where children played in gardens of eternal spring and the royal towers kissed the clouds. Now imagine it burning. Not from war, not from nature, but from the hand of someone they trusted. This is where our story begins, in fire and betrayal, with a warrior angel watching everything she swore to protect turn to dust. Her name is Seraphira Nightwind, last of the Valkyries, chosen guardians blessed by the heavens themselves. Silver wings that shimmer like moonlight on water. Eyes that hold the storms of 1,000 battles. A sword forged in the tears of the first sunrise. She was not born a warrior. She was made one through sacrifice, through loss, through the weight of protecting those who could not protect themselves. Then there's Driven Mortis, once the kingdom's most celebrated general. A man who stood beside the king in 100 battles, who children looked up to, who mothers blessed in their prayers. But ambition is a poison that seeps slow. Behind his decorated armor beat a heart that hungered not for glory, but for power absolute. And on this blood-red evening, he would take it. Prince Selim Thornvale, barely 20 summers old, hiding in forests he used to hunt in as a boy. The rightful heir who never wanted a crown, who preferred books to battlefields, poetry to politics. Destiny, however, does not ask permission. And Lyra Moonfall, ranger of the western woods, archer whose arrows never miss, keeper of secrets older than the kingdom itself. She walks between worlds, between duty and freedom, and tonight she will choose a side that changes everything. The throne room of Castle Thornvale is a cathedral of marble and gold, where kings have been crowned for 300 years. Tonight it becomes a tomb. King Aldrich, gray-bearded and weary, sits not on his throne but on the steps leading to it, clutching a wound that weeps crimson across his royal robes. Before him stands Driven Mortis, but the general's armor is different now. Black as a starless night, etched with runes that pulse with sickly green light. In his hand, a blade that seems to drink the light around it. You swore an oath, the king's voice barely a whisper, each word costing him. You swore to protect this kingdom, Driven. You swore on your father's grave. Driven's smile is the cruelest thing in the room. I swore to serve Thornvale. And I will. Just not the Thornvale of weak kings who let our enemies grow fat while our people starve in the outer villages. Not the Thornvale that bows to tradition while the world moves forward. I will reshape this kingdom into something feared. Something powerful. Something worthy. By murdering your king? By burning your own capital? By removing obstacles? Driven raises the shadow blade. You taught me that, Your Majesty. You taught me that sometimes mercy is weakness. You just never thought you'd be on the receiving end of that lesson. The blade falls. The crown, that ancient circlet of gold and sapphire, splits in two and clatters across the marble floor. The sound echoes like a death knell. 3 miles away, Seraphira feels it. Valkyries are connected to the kingdoms they guard through bonds deeper than blood. When a king falls unjustly, the Valkyrie feels it like a sword through her own heart. She's flying patrol over the eastern mountains when the pain drops her from the sky. She crashes through pine branches, tumbling, wings folding wrong, hitting the ground hard enough to crack stone. When she rises, her wings are dulled. Her silver armor is cracked. And she knows, with certainty colder than winter's first frost, that she has failed. By the time she reaches the capital, it's already over. Driven's soldiers, corrupted by whatever dark magic he's wielded, control every gate. The castle is sealed. Fires burn in 3 districts. And the people, her people, are running with whatever they can carry, screaming, crying, not understanding how their hero became their destroyer in a single night. Seraphira kneels in what used to be the temple square, now just rubble and ash. She touches the broken stones, still warm, and whispers the old prayer. Grant me strength to guard the innocent. Grant me wisdom to know justice. Grant me courage when courage fails. But the words feel hollow now. Empty. She couldn't guard them. She couldn't stop this. Praying won't rebuild what's broken. Seraphira's hand goes to her sword, but she knows that voice. Lyra Moonfall steps from the shadows, her ranger's cloak covered in ash, her quiver down to 3 arrows. There's blood on her cheek, but it's not hers. I failed them, Lyra. I was supposed to sense betrayal. Valkyries are supposed to know when darkness rises. I felt nothing until it was too late. Lyra kneels beside her, and for a moment, they're just 2 warriors in the ruins of their home. You survived. And you know what that means? Lyra's voice is firm, cutting through Seraphira's despair. That means hope survived. That means the story isn't over. That means someone still stands who remembers what Thornvale really was. Seraphira looks up, and Lyra sees tears cutting clean lines through the ash on the Valkyrie's face. But she also sees something else. Something harder than diamond, sharper than any blade. Resolve. Where's the prince? Lyra's slight smile is grim. Safe. For now. But he's going to need his Valkyrie. Seraphira stands. Her wings, damaged and dulled, slowly begin to unfold. And as they do, they start to glow. Not with the bright silver of before, but with something deeper. Something forged not in blessing, but in pain. In loss. In the refusal to surrender. Then let's go find our king. The Forest of Whispers earned its name from the wind that moves through its ancient trees, sounding like voices of the long dead sharing secrets. It's a place most avoid after sunset. But tonight, it's sanctuary. Deep in its heart, hidden by magic older than the kingdom itself, is the sanctuary of Arinder, a place that exists half in this world and half in another. Prince Selim sits on a fallen log, sword across his knees, staring at nothing. He's been doing that for hours, ever since Arinder Vale dragged him from the castle through secret passages while his father drew his last breath above. The old mage, white-haired and bent, but with eyes that burn like coals, lets the prince grieve in silence. Some lessons can't be rushed. Around them, 24 survivors. Palace guards who stayed loyal. Servants who grabbed kitchen knives and chose a side. A handful of nobles whose estates Driven burned for refusing to kneel. They're exhausted, terrified, and looking to a 20-year-old prince who barely knows which end of a sword to hold. I am no king, Selim finally says, voice hollow. Father was the king. Uncle Darius was supposed to be next if anything happened. I'm third in line. I'm the spare. The one who was supposed to study history and write poems and maybe marry some duchess from the southern kingdoms. I'm not built for this. Arinder, who's been stirring a pot of stew over a small fire, doesn't look up. A crown is not worn, boy. It is earned. Your father wore it because his father died in battle when he was 16. He had no training either. He had necessity. That's supposed to comfort me? No. It's supposed to wake you up. Now Arinder looks at him, and there's no gentleness in those burning eyes. Driven is executing anyone with royal blood. Your cousins. Your aunts. Your uncle's children. He's not taking chances. You are not the spare anymore, Selim. You are the last. And you can either die feeling sorry for yourself, or you can become what your people need. Before Selim can respond, the forest itself seems to shift. Trees bend. Shadows move wrong. Every guard draws their weapon. And then Seraphira walks into the clearing, wings folded, hands open and empty. Lyra is 2 steps behind her. Selim has seen paintings of Valkyries, has read stories about them since childhood. But seeing one in person, seeing Seraphira with ash in her silver hair and fury in her eyes and wings that glow with barely contained power, is something else entirely. He understands, suddenly, why his ancestors prayed to the heavens for their protection. The kingdom needs its heir, Seraphira says without preamble. And I need an army. Does this look like an army to you? Selim gestures at the frightened, exhausted group around them. We're refugees. We're the ones who ran while braver people died. No. Seraphira steps closer, and though she's barely taller than him, she seems to tower. You're the ones who survived. You're the ones who chose not to kneel when kneeling would have been easier. You're the ones who still believe Thornvale is worth fighting for. That's not running, Prince. That's strategy. I don't know how to lead them. Then learn. Quickly. Her voice softens, just slightly. Your father was a good king. But he was a king of peace, ruling in peaceful times. Those times are gone. Driven has 6,000 soldiers, dark magic, and control of the kingdom's gold. We have a prince, a Valkyrie, an archer, a mage, and 24 people who know how to hold a weapon. Do you know what that means? Selim shakes his head, feeling helpless. Lyra speaks up from behind Seraphira. It means we fight smart. It means we use every advantage we have. It means we remind the people of Thornvale who they really are. The people are terrified, one of the guards says. Driven's already spreading propaganda. Says the king was corrupt. Says the prince fled like a coward. Says the Valkyrie abandoned them. Half the capital probably believes it by now. Then we show them the truth, Seraphira says. We hit supply lines. We free prisoners. We remind them that Driven rules through fear, but fear is a foundation built on sand. The moment people stop being afraid, it all comes crashing down. Over the next weeks, the Forest of Whispers transforms. Irinder teaches Selim not just sword work but strategy, history, the weight of decisions that cost lives. Lyra trains the survivors in guerrilla tactics, hit and run, how to fight an army when you're not an army. And Seraphira, she flies to every village Driven hasn't yet fully controlled, appears in market squares and temple steps, and reminds people that Valkyries don't abandon their oaths. That the last guardian of Thornvale still fights. Word spreads. Slowly at first, then faster. A blacksmith in the southern village joins them, bringing weapons. A group of farmers who lost everything to Driven's taxes arrive with knowledge of every back road in the kingdom. Former soldiers, dismissed by Driven for being too loyal to the old ways, slip away in the night and find their way to the forest. 20 becomes 50. 50 becomes 100. The resistance is growing. But so is Driven's paranoia. In the castle, sitting on a throne he stole, wearing a crown he murdered for, he receives reports about villages that won't submit, about supplies that never arrive, about his soldiers found dead with arrows through their throats and no sign of who killed them. Let the Valkyrie come, he tells his assembled war council, and his voice echoes off the marble walls where King Aldrich died. Let her gather her little rebellion. Let them think they have hope. Because when I crush them, when I break her wings and hang them above my throne as a trophy, every soul in this kingdom will know that there is no hope. There is only me. Only my rule. Only my power. He stands, and the shadow blade at his side pulses with dark light. Send word to every garrison. Double patrols. Burn any village that harbors rebels. Show no mercy. And find me the prince. I want his head on a spike before the next full moon. Back in the Forest of Whispers, Selim stands before the assembled fighters. They're not an army. Not really. But they're his. And for the first time since his father died, he feels something other than grief. He feels purpose. Driven thinks crowns are made of gold, he says, and his voice carries stronger than it ever has. But my father taught me different. He taught me that a crown is made of responsibility, of sacrifice, of standing between your people and those who would harm them. I didn't want this. I'm not ready for this. But I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere. The clearing erupts in cheers. Seraphira, standing beside him, allows herself the smallest smile. Not victory. Not yet. But possibility. Hope. The thing Driven can never fully kill. The final battle comes on the anniversary of King Aldrich's death, and that's not coincidence. Seraphira chooses the day deliberately. Memory is a weapon, and she wields it like the sword at her side. The plains outside Thornvale's capital are where the kingdom was founded 3 centuries ago, where the first king defeated the warlords and united the scattered tribes into something greater. It's sacred ground. And today, it will be painted red again. Driven's army is 6,000 strong. Armored cavalry. Pike formations. War mages channeling dark magic that makes the air itself taste like metal and ash. They march in perfect formation, banners snapping in the wind, sunlight glinting off a forest of spear tips. They look unstoppable. They look like the inevitable crush of history itself. Against them, Selim's force numbers barely 800. Farmers with pitchforks alongside former soldiers. Village militias who've trained for weeks, not years. Hunters with bows. Blacksmiths with hammers. And at their center, a prince in his father's armor, sitting on a horse, trying not to show how terrified he is. "This is insane," one of the commanders mutters. "We're going to be slaughtered." "Probably," Lyra says cheerfully, checking her arrows for the 10th time. "But we'll make a hell of a story." Irinder stands at the back, staff in hand, already murmuring incantations. The old mage has tricks Driven's war mages have never seen, magic from before kingdoms, from when the world was wilder and power came with a price. And above them all, wings spread wide against the morning sun, is Seraphira. She's not wearing armor anymore. Can't. Most of it was destroyed in earlier fights. Instead, she's wrapped in simple leather and cloth, wings bare and glowing, sword in hand. She looks less like a heavenly guardian and more like a storm given human form. Driven rides out ahead of his army, resplendent in black armor, shadow blade drawn. Seraphira Nightwind, he calls, voice magically amplified to carry across the field. Last Valkyrie of a dead order. Guardian of a fallen kingdom. Kneel now and I'll make your death quick. Your prince too. The people don't need to see their heroes suffer. Seraphira descends, landing between the two armies. Alone. Every eye on the battlefield fixes on her. "You're right about one thing, Driven. I am the last Valkyrie. The heavens chose us to be guardians, protectors, shields for those who could not shield themselves. But here's what you never understood about guardians." She raises her sword, and it catches the sunlight, blazing like a star. "We don't protect because we're ordered to. We don't stand because we're told to. We protect because some things are worth dying for. We stand because if we don't, who will? You stole a throne, Driven. But you can never steal what makes a kingdom. The people. The hope. The refusal to surrender to darkness, even when darkness seems overwhelming." Beautiful speech, Driven sneers. "It'll make a lovely epitaph." For Thornvale, Seraphira whispers, and then louder, a battle cry that echoes across the plains, for the fallen. She launches herself skyward, and the battle erupts beneath her. Driven's cavalry charges. Selim's line braces, pikes angled, and the crash when they meet sounds like the world breaking. Arrows darken the sky. Magic tears through reality itself, flames and lightning and shadows that reach with grasping fingers. It's chaos. It's blood and screaming and the smell of death. Selim fights in the center, sword in hand, and discovers something. He's not good at this. He's not a natural warrior like his father was. But he's stubborn. And every time he's knocked down, he gets back up. Because his people are watching. Because if their prince won't stand, why should they? Lyra moves through the battlefield like a ghost, arrows finding enemy commanders, sowing confusion. Irinder's magic turns the earth itself against Driven's forces, roots bursting from the ground to trip cavalry, winds knocking war mages off their feet before they can complete spells. But it's not enough. They're outnumbered 7-1. For every enemy that falls, 2 more step forward. Selim's line is breaking. They're being pushed back, inch by bloody inch, toward the forest edge. This was always going to be the outcome. They knew that. But knowing doesn't make it easier. High above, Seraphira and Driven clash like gods. Her sword of light against his blade of shadow, each impact sending shockwaves that rattle bones on the ground below. They're evenly matched, both drawing on powers beyond mortal understanding. Seraphira channels the fury of every kingdom that ever stood for something good. Driven channels the ambition of every tyrant who ever clawed for power. "You can't win," Driven snarls as their blades lock. "Even if you kill me, my army will slaughter your rebellion. Your prince will die. Thornvale will be mine." Seraphira smiles, and there's something in that smile that makes even Driven hesitate. "You still don't understand. This was never about winning today. It was about reminding people what's worth fighting for. Look down, Driven. Look at your army." He does. And he sees it. His soldiers are fighting, yes, but not with conviction anymore. They're looking at this ragtag force of farmers and villagers and a prince who keeps getting knocked down but keeps standing up, and they're wondering. They're questioning. If these people, outnumbered and outmatched, won't surrender, what does that say? If their prince bleeds with them, fights with them, what does that make Driven, who sits on a stolen throne and sends others to die? Doubt is a crack. And once it appears, it spreads. For Thornvale, Selim screams from below, wounded and exhausted, but still on his feet. For our homes. For each other. And something shifts. Some of Driven's soldiers stop fighting. Then more. Not everyone. But enough. Enough that the tide, impossibly, begins to turn. No. Driven's composure shatters. He swings wildly at Seraphira, shadow blade cutting through the air. But anger makes you sloppy. Rage makes you stupid. And Seraphira is neither. She sidesteps, wings flaring, and her sword finds the gap in his armor, right where his heart beats. The shadow blade falls from nerveless fingers, tumbling end over end toward the earth below. Driven follows it, crashing into the mud, armor cracked, blood spreading. He's not dead, not yet, but he's finished. And he knows it. Seraphira lands beside him, sword at his throat. The battlefield has gone quiet. Everyone watching. I could kill you, she says softly, just for him. The gods know you deserve it. But I'm not you, Driven. I don't rule through fear and murder. Your life isn't mine to take. It's theirs. She looks to Selim, who's limping forward, supported by Lyra. The young prince stands over the fallen general, the man who killed his father, who burned his kingdom, who tried to break everything good in the world. And everyone waits to see what kind of king he'll be. You'll stand trial, Selim says, and his voice doesn't shake. You'll answer for your crimes. Not because I want revenge, but because justice matters. Because we're not savages. Because Thornvale stands for something better than what you tried to make it. It's not the ending anyone expected. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just a wounded prince choosing law over vengeance. But that choice, that moment, changes everything. Because it shows everyone watching what kind of kingdom they're fighting for. Driven's army surrenders. Some flee. Most kneel, choosing mercy over a lost cause. The battle is over. Thornvale is free. But Seraphira, standing apart from the celebration, knows this isn't the end. It's a beginning. Rebuilding will be harder than fighting ever was. There will be trials. Disagreements. Hard decisions. Because freedom isn't a thing you win once and keep forever. It's a thing you choose again and again, every single day. Selim approaches, crownless and covered in mud and blood, but standing tall. What happens now? Seraphira's wings fold gently behind her. Now you become the king your father raised you to be. Not through birth, but through choice. And I do what Valkyries have always done. I guard. I protect. I stand watch. Because as long as one Valkyrie breathes, this kingdom will never fall. Not to tyrants. Not to darkness. Never. She looks up at the sky, at the clouds that are finally breaking, sunlight spilling through like hope made visible. As long as there are people worth protecting, there will be someone to protect them. That's not just a Valkyrie's oath. That's what it means to be human. To stand for each other. To refuse to let darkness win. To choose hope even when hope seems impossible. The sun sets on Thornvale, but not in ending. In beginning. A kingdom broken but not defeated. A people tested but not broken. And a prince who learned that crowns aren't worn but earned, that true power comes not from fear but from love, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply refuse to give up. Life lesson. True strength isn't measured by the battles you win, but by the courage to keep standing when everything seems lost. Leadership isn't about power or perfection. It's about choosing to serve others even when you're afraid, even when you're unprepared, even when the easier path would be to run. Hope is not a passive thing we wait for. It's an active choice we make every single day, even in our darkest moments. We all face our own kingdoms in ruins, our own moments of betrayal and loss. But like Seraphira and Selim, we can choose to be guardians of what matters, to protect kindness in a cruel world, to stand for justice when injustice seems overwhelming, and to remember that as long as we refuse to surrender to darkness, The light never truly dies. Sonnet 4.5.